With vacancy rates in Nelson among the lowest in the province, being able to afford a place to live has become a daunting task. On this episode of The Lunch Counter, affordable housing and homelessness in the Kootenays is on the menu.
Hi, I'm Katie Tabor, and I'm the Community Coordinator with the Nelson Committee on Homelessness. Affordable housing is an issue that deeply impacts residents. Poverty and homelessness are real in our beautiful community of Nelson. On an individual level, one of the most powerful things that any one of us can do is to become more informed, know the facts on the issues, and share those issues with your friends, with your networks, and within your community to make a difference.
Hi, I'm Michelle Mongeau, the MLA for Nelson Creston, and affordable housing is a major issue here for the Kootenays because unfortunately homelessness does live here. People are living in poverty, they are at risk of becoming homelessness, and we need to find solutions for that and work on those solutions well into the future.
My name is Dave Sprague. I'm an advocate for homelessness with the Nelson Committee on Homelessness. Our situation in this community has generated the information that not only are the youth in our community at risk of being homeless, but it affects all ages ranges in the community.
Do you think there is a lack of affordable housing in the Kootenays?
Probably yes. Yes, rentals are very expensive for here, but though the price of houses is also expensive too, so it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yes, I do. As a student who tried to find housing on her own, it was really hard.
There are a lot of homeless people. I don't know what the answer is as to developing low cost housing. Is taxpayers going to have to foot the bill, and the taxpayers won't be happy.
I was recovering from surgery and looking for a house and looking for a place to live in Nelson, and to find something that would fit my needs. I couldn't find anything underneath $500 that had its own bathroom and living room, kitchen set up with a bedroom. My living room would be my bedroom, and that would be enough to live off. But try and find one, you know, and that takes, with the first level of disability that I was receiving, that's like 2/3 of what I had coming. And so I ended up with like $230 to live off of for a month, and that's clothing, entertainment, food, and that type of thing really gets frustrating, causes anxiety. For some people, I realize that they're influenced because of the situation they're in to bend the law and to try and generate more income.
Solutions have to come from all different levels of community, of government, and it has to have like multiple people involved in creating those solutions, right? Advocates as well, which is both of what you guys are doing. And so for instance, you know, the City of Nelson has done a big part in terms of developing an affordable housing fund and working with developers and putting a levy on developers so that they can put money into that fund and support more affordable housing. But a community of 10,000 with a very small geographic space will never do what a community like Vancouver can do, for example, right? Very large municipality of a million people. So smaller communities like ours are limited, right? And you need to have upper levels of government come into play. But the choices that have been made over the last 10 years are actually a steady cutback in BC housing year after year after year. So there's an 18% cutback slated for this year, a 24% cutback slated for next year, and last year there was also another $4 million cutback. You know, and this is happening at the same time we have an economic crisis when more and more people are going to need those basic need supports like housing. but instead we're putting $1 billion into something like smart meters, right? Like, these are the types of choices that are being made, and we as citizens need to determine whether we're okay with those type of choices. And as more people are becoming aware about poverty and homelessness, we need to be speaking out and saying we need to be meeting the basic needs of everybody in our community, right? And this is where we have to start seeing some action.
There will always be a lack for housing because of the population increase all the time.
From what I've understood, is mortgages are expensive, and the pricing is going higher and higher, and it's harder and harder to live in town.
I've just moved out here from Alberta myself, and trying to find a place is very, very difficult.
The builders seem to build great big houses that only rich people can afford. Why not build something that's moderate and the working man can afford?
Do you think it is easier to be a renter or a homeowner in the Kootenays, and why?
I think that rents are really high here, maybe because of supply and demand. Being a homeowner is definitely what I would like to do, and with these low interest rates as well. I'm self-employed, so coming up with my down payment is a challenge, but in my philosophy is that I would like to own.
I think probably if you can afford it, or if you can swing it, homeowner, because usually you can bring your mortgage payment lower than what a rent payment would be, and you're always investing in yourself when you have a mortgage.
I would prefer to be a homeowner. I think a lot of people find it easier to be a renter. There's less ownership, there's less issues.
I've heard that Canada is the only G8 country without a national housing strategy, right? So there is that national context, and we're not alone in our community struggles for affordable housing, and it is an issue that needs to be really addressed at a federal level in a really strong way.
Absolutely. The federal government pulled out years ago in terms of its contribution to building affordable housing. And in BC, I should mention, though, we do have the rental supplement for people who are struggling and they need a help for a month or a couple of months. But what's interesting about that in terms of stats, as we already mentioned, over 200,000 households, so not people, households, in BC are at risk of losing their housing. They're paying more than 30% of their income on housing. But only 24,000 households are eligible and able to access that rental supplement program. So we're scratching the surface of the need with that program, right? And with the welfare exemption, so people are now able to make $800 a month instead of the $600 that they get on social assistance. It's still not enough. We're scratching the surface of what the solutions can be. And I think one of the things that I've learned about was housing first type of model, a housing first approach to understanding those solutions. And that is, it's not about building more emergency shelter beds. It's about building actual housing units and providing people the supports they need to maintain that housing. So for people with mental illness and addictions, having supports on site to be able to make any decisions that they want to make in life and get involved in the community and perhaps overcome their addiction, right?
Housing with supports and housing first is a proven best practice in terms of ending homelessness. And there are best practice solutions happening right here in our community, and when we talk about solutions, it's important to acknowledge those things and what is working in the community, because really we can keep building on those things. There are a small number of housing with support units for people with mental health issues, but it's very small. We need more. I was talking to the manager of mental health for our area, and he told me that he estimated that it's $3,000 a day for somebody to stay at the Daily, which is a psychiatric unit. So $3,000 a day. Conversely, supported housing costs $85 a day. So there's a huge economic savings for our community and our government to house people in a supported way.
Housing for Humanity is a wonderful organization, but building one house for one family is a really good thing. But I'm really hoping that someday they'll see the need and say, okay, look, let's go into a community. Let's build a 20-unit low-income housing, or take over a building,
vacant and
rebuild it.
Because while those buildings are sitting empty, the affordable housing units in our community that are, you know, nonprofit and government managed, so the ones that are set up to be affordable housing units, have such long wait lists.
3 to 5 years in BC.
Well, I was talking to an executive director of one of the affordable housing places. She says in the past 3 years they have had one vacancy. Yeah. So people wait for those units.
And there used to be a greater transition or turnover in the affordable housing units and the subsidized units, because people could stabilize and get a job, and that job would be sufficient wage to move into private market housing, right? But with market housing having shot through the roof in British Columbia, BC is the most unaffordable province to be living in, right? And the community that's the most unaffordable place in BC is Vancouver, so it's not here, thankfully, but Nelson is one of the most expensive communities in the Kootenays.
It is. It is the most. And one of the lowest vacancy rates in the province, too.
Exactly. So it's very difficult for people to move out of the subsidized housing because there's nowhere for them to go in the next level in terms of affordability for them, right? And there's a lot of new units that are being built that cater to a more higher-end homeowner, but not to an entry-level homeowner, right? So in BC, I think the starting income to own just a starter home is $70,000 a year, and the vast majority of British Columbians can't afford that.